We'll go ahead and we'll call to order the public safety meeting for today, November the 16th. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd.
Present.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Howard.
Present.
Thank you. Alderwoman Spencer.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderman Page.
Present.
Chairman Vaccaro.
Present.
6 present. Quorum has not been established.
Okay. Well, so we're gonna until someone else joins us, we'll go ahead and skip over the minutes. And so I think what we're going to start off with anyway is, I believe I have Chris Rice with us, I believe, from the New Life Evangelistic Center. Chris, are you here with us?
I am here. Thank you for inviting me.
So, some of the things that really have been disturbing to me, and we started working on this before COVID. And what I found is a lot, especially girls that were coming in and talking to me that were literally being raped or prostituted out for protection almost every night in the city of St. Louis out on our streets. And I talked to them. One girl had her whole mouth was all busted up and she was bleeding. And she told me, well, it's because she had resisted. And I said, did you call the police? And the simple answer was no. I said, why didn't you call the police? She said, well, because what happened to her happens apparently to a lot of the homeless people. They get tickets for vagrancy. They don't show up to court, so they got warrants. And they're more afraid of going to jail, or going to the police and ending up in jail than they are of being raped or beat up, because their freedom of staying out on the streets is there. And we're getting ready to go into winter again. And so, I wanted to bring on Larry Rice, and this is his nephew, who also runs a homeless facility. I believe, in Columbia or somewhere?
We have a variety of different centers throughout the city of Missouri, or the state of Missouri, but in St. Louis, we have 11 safe houses for women and children and men. And also we operated 1411 Locust for 4 decades within the city of St. Louis. So we have quite a bit of experience in low barrier housing for the homeless in this location in particular.
So if you can kind of just explain what your thoughts are going into winter. And then I think what I'm going to do is open it up to members of the committee. We can either go by just open mic or whatever, but I thought this would be the time that we should at least look into this and be a little bit more serious before we have all the issues that we're going to run into going into the winter months. So Chris, if you go ahead and just give us a little background and your thoughts on what we should do going into the winter months.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll just open it up.
Yeah, in clarification, I'm the grandson of Larry Rice. I work full-time for New Life Evangelistic Center. And we do street outreach every day of the week. And so we're really on the front lines of listening to the needs of people who are experiencing chronic homelessness. And one of our biggest concerns is that if there is a plan that the city of St. Louis has, the information has not been communicated effectively with the people who need that information most. There is still very little access to low barrier shelter throughout the day for the amount of people that we're seeing on the streets. And so we're quite concerned with the lack of information that is being made available to people who are experiencing homelessness. We have a day center in Springfield, and we are able to work very closely with the city and get that kind of information to homeless men and women. And so our lack of a day center, low barrier day center for the hundreds of people who are out on the streets is really a big concern for us and for other service providers. I know that there has been some ongoing conversation about day centers or safe havens, but we really need action right now, because as that void has not been filled, people are going to die from exposure throughout the day and in the evening. There's not enough overnight shelters as well. So there are a number of big concerns, and Alderman Vaccaro pointed out some very serious ones as well. The abuse that is happening on the streets to the women, that same kind of abuse happens to men as well, and other crimes. So the violence is a big concern, but we really believe that having a centralized location that's low barrier, where service providers can meet on a regular basis with their clients without having to go and search for them in the highways and the byways, is central to really addressing the needs of our homeless brothers and sisters on the streets.
Thank you, Chris. You want me to just go down the list, Vice Chairman Boyd, or do you want to just open it up to whoever would like to ask questions?
You're the chairman. I mean, we yield to you.
Well, so we can go down the list. Vice Chairman Boyd, do you have questions for Chris? Or
sure. Chris, let me ask you this: have your organization applied for the ARPA funds to help out? With the city is issue some RFPs to kind of help out with homelessness.
We have only recently been made aware of those grants and the funding that's available, and honestly, our focus right now is to try to do the work necessary on our building to be able to open up 1411 as a low barrier day center. So that's one way that we're really focusing to try and help in that way. But we've only recently been made available or aware of the funding.
And how were you made aware of the funding?
Through some appeals to the mayor, Tashara Jones, about trying to get our building open as a low barrier shelter. And at that point they said, well, there is funding available. You guys just need to apply for that. So it is something we are looking into.
When you say recent, how recent?
Within the last month or two.
Okay. And so within the last month, you guys are still exploring whether or not you want to access those funds in order to begin some work on your building. Is that my understanding?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is your barrier to putting an application for the funding?
Well, honestly, right now that our staff is stretched really thin. So we've had some deaths within our ministry. And so it's just been really staffing to look into, all of the different paperwork involved in sending in an application.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chris. And I appreciate the work that you do on behalf of the citizens of St. Louis.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Davis, have you joined us yet? Alderwoman Howard, any questions?
Yes, Chairman.
Alderwoman Davis is on.
Oh, Alderwoman Davis, we have a quorum now. but we'll go through this and we'll do that. So Alderwoman Davis, do you have questions for Chris?
I do not exactly have questions, sir. I'm very familiar with conversations that have been going back and forth. I think the most important thing at this point is to make sure that everybody is working together. Those funds are available, and the process is not that difficult to apply. And we wanted to make sure that everybody knew about it. And that's why I was looking at who all had been given the information. And even as just maybe a month ago, Reverend Rice did indicate in a news interview that he was having conversations with the city. And so I do know that that part of it is not a barrier. I also know that the city is very prepared for the overnight housing and some new transitional housing that is being put in place for the homeless. And so we believe that we have more than enough, depending on how many people arrive in St. Louis, because that's another thing that we deal with all the time. New people constantly arriving. And so we do know that we need a lot of day shelters. I understand that a number of our churches have also put themselves in a position to provide services during the day. I know I have one really large facility in my ward that could probably house about 75 overnight. And so those are the kinds of things that are being put in place. I'm hoping everybody is working together, because a part of our problems that we had before is people were not getting information for upward mobility. And so if your agency cannot help us with that, then there really would be no reason to even have a center open, because the idea is to move people from the position that they're in. That's a critical part of it. So we want to, we don't want to be, I don't think we need to be in what I consider to be an overly anxious mode, but we need to be in a very inclusive and purposeful moving in action towards helping people. So I'm hoping that this is the beginning of some additional conversations, and most especially including all that are working on this problem. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman.
I appreciate those comments, Alderman Davis. I guess my big concern, what we're seeing on the streets, is that the information about what's available is not being dispersed effectively, because a lot of the people that we see when we're doing street outreach are not aware of the city's plan for the winter. And so I guess my question is, those beds being made available, how can we together as a city work to communicate effectively what is available and streamline the process? Because what we're seeing on the streets is not there's a breakdown in communication. That's our biggest concern right now as a ministry, and we want to help you disperse that information, but we are not really aware of what's available right now either. And so as New Life kind of enters into the fold with CPO, or not CPO, the COC and all of that, that's great, but the information is not being dissipated effectively right now, is what we're seeing.
Okay. Well, I think that's a statement that can be made if you've not been aware. The Department of Human Services has a very extensive program that is in place, and it is in partnership with the police department. And we do have people who are actually on the street all the time looking for people, not just waiting for them to show up at a door. And we also have the opportunity to call our 911 service and get assistance if we see someone who is homeless. And I had the opportunity to use it myself a couple of weeks ago. A woman appeared to be homeless in a wheelchair in a dangerous area. I made the phone call. It was somebody there in less than 10 minutes. They made sure that she was stable first by giving her water, checking her pulse, all kinds of things. And then they were working with her with conversation, and I saw them with literature, all that. I had to move on to my meeting, but I could see that they were giving her care and attention. And so that's available every day, 24 hours a day. So I think connecting with our Department of Human Services and getting information so that you can work within that system to help people will be extremely good at this point.
Well, I mean, the one thing I would say is we just got a director less than 12 days ago who—
Those things were already in place before that.
I know, but she just reached out to me, or I wouldn't. And I'll have a meeting next week bringing in the homeless group and her, because I'll be honest with you, I was not aware of all the, where are all the shelters going to be this winter? When are they going to open? What, I hadn't been made aware of it. And when I did reach out to find out, what I was told was, well, we don't have a director yet. And then finally we got a director just like about a week or two ago. So, I mean, I'm just saying, but I understand what you're saying, but I also know my concern it lies really deep, having actually not only slept in shelters as a volunteer, but actually went out years and years and years ago on the winter, the Larry Rice would have the winter group that would go out with blankets and stuff. So this is something that's kind of deep within me. So did you guys have any other? I'm sorry, Alderman.
No, I'm done, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So Alderwoman Howard. I don't know what happened. Her picture's gone. Alderwoman Howard, are you still with us? I hope. Maybe she's got some disconnectivity problems. Alderwoman Spencer. Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have any questions at this time. Thank you, Chris, for your service.
Alderman Alderman Bosley, have you joined us? Okay, and Alderman Collins Muhammad, have you joined us? Alderman Oldenburg. Okay, and Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions. Just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Rice for his work on this, and keep up the good work. Thanks.
And then Alderman Page.
Did you forget about me?
No, I went to you a whole bunch, but you were gone for a bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought your phone. I was hoping you didn't leave us. Well, we'll go back with you first. Alderwoman Howard.
I just want to thank Mr. Rice for being here today, but just for clarity, you haven't applied for the funding yet, or you're not going to? I'm real fuzzy on that. I mean, it seems to be that with this funding being available, that's a golden opportunity. And I mean, it is on the city website on how to apply for that. And I mean, we're torn because we are sort of a place where the homeless come from all around because we provide services. The city, we have many agencies here that work with the homeless to try to rehouse them, get them back on track. Is it complete? Is it 100%? I would say maybe not, but you have to have two people working together. The people that are unhoused have to want to be rehoused, and if the services are there. So I guess my question is, do you plan to apply for this, or you just don't have the resources to do that?
We are looking into applying. We have not applied yet. Thank you for pointing us in the direction of the city website to learn more about how to apply. We are really looking to try and do the repairs necessary to open up 1411 as a low barrier day center so that other service providers, as you mentioned, can meet with their clients in a localized central place in downtown St. Louis. St. Patrick's is great, but in terms of a low barrier day center, they only have so many spaces, and there are a lot of people who still need those services, some of the basic necessities of life met, who are not quite ready yet to make the decision to change. And we respect that and want to fill that void, perhaps, in the services that St. Louis provides.
And I have one more question. What do you mean by low barrier?
I mean that to receive the services for day center, a place to take a shower, to have locker access, to get food, to get clothing, those kind of services met, you do not need to attend any classes. You don't necessarily need a state ID or anything like that. Low barrier means there are no strings attached to come and receive some of the basic necessities of life. So that's what we mean by low barrier.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
Alderman Page, and then Alderwoman Ingracias, if you're with us, she sent me a text. I would also have you join in with what you just sent me. But Alderman Page, any questions? And I think that falls into your into what is currently your ward.
It does indeed. And thank you, Chair. Mr. Rice, first and foremost, thank you for the work that you do in various places around the state of Missouri. My questions this morning are a little bit different. One of the things that concerns my constituents considerably is the fact that there are quite a few homeless services of various types aggregated and concentrated in the Fifth Ward. You've mentioned St. Patrick's Center, so I'll mention that name, but there are many, many, many others. No need for me to go down the list. My question to you is, would you agree that the entire St. Louis region owns our homeless issue and not just one particular area of the city or the region?
I would agree.
Having that agreement, I would ask you, have you considered establishing, I realize you own the building on Locust, well, that's a fact, but have you considered other locations? I don't mean way down in Carondelet, for example, or way up in Baden or North Point, not necessarily, but have you considered other locations that are within a reasonable distance that may disperse these centers, especially low barrier, and I understand clearly what you mean. I deal with this every day.
Mm-hmm.
Have you considered other locations to disperse these services more equitably, I'll say, throughout the city and the region? Is that a thought? Would that be advantageous?
I agree it would be advantageous. My grandfather is willing to move that key essential service that has not been filled since 1411 has been closed to another location that is that transportation can be centralized, right? It needs to be easily accessible to those we want to serve. And we do own the building. And so one thing is, if we're going to move locations, then we need to be paid enough for the building to be able to build an equally large facility to operate all of our services in. Does that make sense?
It does indeed. And I'm really glad we have this opportunity. And I don't want to take the entire time. You know, we can even continue this offline if you so choose. But I wanted to bring these ideas forward in a public forum. And let me say, without going any further, that I personally am very sensitive to the fact that winter is coming. I think that's a tagline from a movie, but it is coming. I personally, out of my own pocket, contribute to the St. Louis Winter Outreach to do what I can to help. But needless to say, that's not enough to help the entire unhoused population over the winter. But, you know, I think it's important that we all do what we can. But I won't go down this line of questioning a lot further, but I did want to get it in front of the committee and in front of the public that I think it should be considered. And from what I'm hearing from you, I don't think our thoughts are too different on this topic.
Yeah, so we own our building and we operated out of that building for 4 decades plus. And we filled a very essential need in our local communities. And so we would want, I agree with you that one ward should definitely not take the majority of the resources. And I also understand your concerns that your constituents have. What we've experienced, New Life has personally experienced trying to open up additional buildings in other wards, in other places of the city, and have received incredible resistance from, and I could give numerous different examples. We've applied for federal buildings that are not being operated to be used for the homeless. We've tried to buy property in other different wards, and we've received a ton of resistance from communities in other areas because the mentality is not in my backyard. And so I would say we are interested in filling the need of a low barrier shelter, and it doesn't have to be right there at 1411. What does need to happen is that the facility, wherever we're located, is as big and we can help as many people as we were when 1411 was closed down in 2017, and that it's a central location where people can access those services throughout the city, right? And so 1411 is that it is in an area where most people are at, and that's why it would be really nice. And we're still pursuing to try and have 1411 open as a low barrier day shelter. So Alderman Page, I have reached out in the past to try and have this conversation with you. I'm really thankful for the opportunity to talk on a smaller scale about our plans. And I would love to meet with you beyond this meeting to continue talking about how we can work together to serve the homeless in our communities.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the information you provided this morning. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I have no further questions at this time.
Okay. I would, Alderwoman Gracia sent me a text, which ties right into what we're talking about. And I would say that might be also a good place, Alderwoman Gracia, if you would have Chris Rice or Larry Rice at that. But if you would go ahead and just explain what you had just texted me, that would be nice.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity, Chairman Vaccaro. I just, for a quick update, the Human Services Department is working on winter planning as we speak. I was hoping that they would come in on December 1st to present to the Health and Human Services Committee with updates, but I can tell you that by next week, they're working with United Way to update information on where the warming centers will be. They'll have information about overflow beds for extreme temperatures and the way that the warming bus will be operating this winter. And then the RFPs have closed for the winter planning purposes. And so there's a professional services agreement committee that is reviewing those right now. We did receive a large number of applications, which I think indicates that we will have some strong organizations with whom to partner this winter. And hopefully those decisions will be made by early next week. And Chairman, if you're interested, I'm happy to host a joint meeting between health and public safety to discuss the updates that I think all of us are ready for and ready to pass along communications to our constituents to make sure folks are taken care of this winter.
I would be more than happy to do that. I'd like to do it, again, very shortly. And the purpose behind that is, like I said, it isn't that, like I said, before the COVID, we started to really work on this. And if you were there, a lot, anyway, it wasn't almost every day during the winter, especially young ladies that came in that were basically raped. I mean, like I said, the one girl was all bloody and all that. She said, well, I resisted. And I said, why didn't you call the police? Well, because, again, they get tickets for vagrancy. So they don't go to court, they get warrants. And so they're afraid. So they feel much safer being raped out on the street. My compassion is for these younger girls. A lot of people become homeless because drug activity or whatever. When their family has given up, they've stolen not only from the neighbors, they've stolen from them. And the family finally says, look, you know what? You're out. I mean, the thing, this keeps on, I'm sorry. I don't even know how to make it turn off. But anyway, so the problem is that, they have nowhere to go, nobody to turn to. And I apologize, I don't know how to turn this darn thing off, but if I knew how, I would turn it off. I had to start with a tablet this morning because my computer was down. So, I got to where I had somewhat of a rapport with some of especially the girls. And they get a fairly good understanding. I'm going to throw this in the damn drawer. There. Whoever it is just wants to keep calling and calling. And I'm sure it's really important. I'm sure it's a spam call. They want to sell me, ever since I turned 65, I get a call 12 times a day wanting to know if I want Medicare. Anyway, but so, and I'm sorry for all the interruptions. So anyway, that's kind of where my heart's at on this. And hang on one second. I apologize. Let me. I'm back. We also have 4 rescue dogs, and at our farm we have rescue horses. So anyway, that's where my heart's at on this. I see my grandkids and my daughter and that, and these young ladies that are out there, and they're being taken advantage of. Yes, we're going in the winter, and people are going to die if we don't make a change. But even in the middle of summer, these girls are forced into prostitution, or they're being raped, or it's just that we have to, at some point, while we're in this position, we have to try to step in and help. And that I just wanted to say that's where my heart's at. But if we can do this next week, the sooner the better. Alderwoman Gracia, I would be more than happy to do that.
Okay, let's work with the clerk because I did attempt to schedule a day, but because we have a packed schedule in a short week, I'm not sure that we can make that happen, but happy to try.
Okay, just let me know. I'm on board.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Did you have any questions for Chris Rice?
I don't. I appreciate you asking.
Okay. So does anyone else on the committee or off the committee have any questions for Chris Rice? So Chris, I want to say thank you for coming. And what I think we're going to do is do it next week with Alderwoman and Gracia, her committee. I'd like to have you and your grandpa and maybe some other people kind of come in at the same time. There's just a real important need to move forward, but I appreciate your time today. We're going to call a roll and we're going to kind of move forward with the meeting. But anyway, God bless you. Thank you for showing up today for me.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I really appreciate the opportunity to share our concerns. And I hope that very soon in the future, we can work together to address these people experiencing homelessness on the streets.
Thank you. So we're going to kick this meeting off again now. We did roll call, but I guess let's go back through the roll call and then we'll do the approval of the minutes. So, Madam Clerk, would you recall the roll?
Sure.
Make sure we got a quorum still here and we're moving forward with some of these bills that we got to move.
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderwoman Davis,
Present.
Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Narayan,
Here.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderman Page,
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Present.
Alderwoman Howard,
Present.
Alderwoman Bosley, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. 7 present, you have quorum.
Okay. So next I'd like to do the approval of the minutes from the October 13th meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes from November the 13th, 2021.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman, did you say October 13th?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
October 13th, yes.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Narayan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderman Page,
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro.
Aye.
7 aye votes.
Okay. What I want to do, we're going to have 3 bills and hopefully we can just keep the quorum together. Vice Chairman Boyd, I think I want to go ahead and I know normally we would do outside the committee first, but since I have, I'd like to at least get through this Board Bill 19 And I have our attorney Lugali on the phone with us. I also have Reverend Gray, and I don't know if I have Adolphia Prude on here or not, but I do have him on here somewhere. So I'd like, since you'll have to do this, because since it's my bill, so it's all yours.
Okay.
And it's 19.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you're recognized on Board Bill 19.
Okay, so Board Bill 19, we talked about this past meeting. Now we've sent a fiscal note, although there's been some changes to the fiscal note. I've never seen a board bill that has met with such resistance. I mean, even so, I get things from people inside the jail, whether it's like the people that work there, that tell me about the abuse and all the stuff going on, even with the basic riots that went on this past year. So I had I tried to find out what was going on. And of course, we had another retirement. It was amazing. So I had the attorney, Lugali, send a sunshine request. And everybody will be happy to know, I've sent everybody's things, there have been no incidents, or at least no reports of any incidents this whole year at the jail. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I keep seeing the incidents on the news, yet under a sunshine request. So now we're going to try to put it even in a different way. But everybody on the committee got the report from the sunshine request, which basically said there's been no incidences, no reports. So either there are no reports, people are being beat up, or there's problems going on and just not writing reports. I guess that's one thing. But the total, complete lack of transparency is horrible. If we don't get a civilian oversight committee in there, this stuff is going to continue and continue to happen. The last go around, they felt there was problems with this because there wasn't a fiscal note. So we don't have someone to help put a fiscal note together. So our attorney helped me put one together. Actually, he put it together for me. And again, they said, well, Paul Payne's office said, well, there was some issues and whatnots. And, so we have a fiscal note, and it is the best fiscal note that we're able to put together. And again, it seems like every time I go down this path, it gets met with resistance. The mayor wants to do her bill, which is not an oversight bill. It is a bill that she puts together with people that work for the city that are under her. This is not a civilian oversight committee. Like I explained to her, I'm fine with a 3-tier whatever, but I want a true civilian oversight committee so we can find out what's going on over there. You see in the county where they just had the worker that got beat up. And it's not just the workers, the prisoners are being beat up by other prisoners, not because the workers are putting them up against each other. They're just doing it. I mean, there's fights. It is absolutely important that we put together, that we pass this out of committee. And we got the fiscal note now, that we pass this out of committee today, and we move forward with this. In the meantime, this has been going on for a year that I've been trying to move something like this through. And for a year, it seems like somehow it's met with resistance, or, and again, I will call the mayor's office out on this. All I hear is transparency, transparency, transparency. all I get is lack of transparency. I had to look this up in a dictionary just to make sure I understood what transparency is, because apparently I don't believe the mayor's office knows. This has just been a mess from the beginning. We need to correct it. I will open this up to questions from the committee. I am also going to, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I was trying to refresh my memory. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Board Bill 19 committee substitute, I think that's what should be before us, correct?
Right.
We did have discussion on the committee substitute in the past. It's been a while, but I just want to make sure. I'm seeing one member saying no. I just want to make sure we're doing things in order. I just didn't remember. The clerk is going to check now. So I tell you what.
And everybody has the committee sub. It was in the,
So just to be on the safe side, Mr. Chairman, I like to move to put Board Bill 119 committee substitute before the committee for consideration.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 19 committee substitute.
Objection.
Committee. Objection to previous roll. Alderman Bosley, we're on Board Bill 19. So the motion is before us to place Board Bill 19 committee substitute before the committee. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Bosley,
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Narayan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderman Page,
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro.
aye.
8 aye votes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now what's before us is Board Bill 19 committee substitute. Mr. Golly, would you like to kind of explain to us the difference between the committee substitute and the original board bill that we discussed months ago?
Yes, Alderman. The committee substitute is based off of the board bill that was proposed to us by the mayor's office. The big difference between that board bill and this board bill are what the mayor proposed. To clarify, what the mayor proposed in this is that this does actually have an actual civilian oversight rather than employees of the city conducting the investigations. The previous bill was very similar to the COB bill and how this civilian oversight board for corrections was to be constructed and how it operated. In the current version and the committee substitute, it doesn't stray very far from that. It's still substantially similar to that organization.
Do we have a marked up copy of the board bill just for full transparency so that members of the committee and everybody kind of know what has changed?
I think that it would be impossible to read a marked up copy because this is
there were some radical changes.
Yeah, well, yes, the changes are radical. While much of the substance remains the same, it's not in the same order or language.
Okay. Let's go around the committee and ask committee members if they have any questions. Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you, sir. I guess my first question is, I remember the conversation on Board Bill 19, and we had a long discussion about, did we need a division or office of accountability, and then have all these various oversight entities under it? And I don't know if we ever got there in this bill. I didn't see it when I read it this morning. Because right now it's just too fragmented.
So if they want an office of accountability, that needs to be a whole separate bill. This needs to be a civilian oversight committee. We didn't seem to have this problem when we did it for a police oversight committee, there should be no problem putting together a civilian oversight committee.
Well, that was our first one, the police one. But now we have, right now, I see at least 3 or 4 different oversights that we're establishing. And so now you have a larger entity and you need to have a division for it to fall under. And that was the only thing I had a question about. You don't want to have all these strings out here. You need to have an Office of Accountability. And I kind of looked at other cities to see how they're doing theirs. And that keeps a tight rein over it so that procedures are similar. That's critical because a lot of these things end up in lawsuits. And so your procedures need to be similar and under an Office of Accountability. You also need to make sure that in each one of these entities that you have the appropriate staff with the appropriate background as far as experience on them. And so I was just looking at those things, as I said before, as I've shared with our attorney, as I've shared with Dan Eisen, as I've shared with Adolphus Pruitt, and everybody else who's had anything to say about this. It's just having it done in a very professional way where we can get good results for our citizens. That's all I want.
Well, then let's do away with all the other ones while we're at it.
I don't want to throw away anything.
Well, then let's add this one. I don't understand if they want to do their Office of Accountability, do that as a separate bill. You can put everything in their brother under it. But this is a separate board bill that puts together a oversight committee to go in and make sure that the people that are entrusted to us, our guests that are there at the jail, are having someone at least a voice. Now, they want to do their Office of Accountability. This is the first time we did the police one. Everybody's like, Yahoo, we're going to do it. We're going to get those police and we're going to watch them and do all this stuff. There's a real problem going on across the way. And again, when I send out a sunshine request and amazingly get back a thing that says, in this whole year, there's been no incidents, no reports of any incidents. Do you believe that? Do you believe there has been no incidents in that jail this whole year? I mean, I watch TV, so I've seen the incidents. But I sent everybody a copy of what they sent me. Everybody got that. And they say, gee, there's no incidents. That in itself tells me we need to act on this now.
Okay, let me ask this. Alderman Davis, were you finished with your comments?
Yes, sir, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure for clarity. The office is going to be under the Department of Public Safety. Is that correct?
No, I don't think so. Well, yes. I mean, ultimately, yes. What they would like.
The division or what have you, whatever term we're using. Yeah. Just like civilian oversight, the Civilian Oversight Board is under the Public Safety Department, right?
Right, yes.
And as I read in this bill, unless I'm reading something wrong, it looks like the Corrections Board would be under the Department of Public Safety. Is that correct?
No, that's right, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to get some clarity on it's not just kind of sitting out there on its own, but there is management of the board by a director that's appointed by the mayor. So I just wanted to be kind of clear on that. Next, Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Howard. Okay, we'll come back to Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Spencer. We'll come back to Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Pam Boyd joined us. Don't see her. Alderman Bosley.
Alderwoman Boyd is here, and I have no comment right now.
Well, thank you. I'm used to seeing your picture up there. Thank you, Alderman Bosley. Okay, I'll come back to Alderman Bosley. Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Oldenburg. Okay. Alderman Narayan.
Thank you,
Thank you for joining us.
Vice Chairman. In theory, I'm very supportive of this. I think that, you know, we do come down to the Board of Aldermen and talk a lot about, you know, openness and transparency, and what's more transparent than having a civilian oversight of any institution. I think that's an important part of our government. The one question that I do have, I'm reviewing the fiscal note on this, and it looks like it's going to cost just short of $375,000 a year. How did you come up with those numbers, Chairman?
Well, so again, we as a Board of Aldermen don't have a person to help us with this. So I relied on our attorney and the Paul Payne's office. And this, and our attorney can answer this too, but this is what we believe should be based off of the Police Oversight Board, and based off of other, that we can just do our best estimate of what we believe it would cost. And that's really where this is at. And Lou, if you'd want to further comment, that's fine. But none of us, we're not, you know, certainly me, I'm not an attorney or a fiscal guy. And we lost our fiscal guy to the county because they pay better than we do. We had a great fiscal guy who could have had everything down to the last 10 cents.
Sure. No, he was quite good at his job. I guess my question here is, I'm just looking at if we've done this for the police department, would it make sense to kind of combine this into the same oversight board as police, or do you think that they're two?
No, because
different?
They're different. Because the police are the ones who put the people there. We're there to look over the people that are there. So it's two different things altogether. You know, we're there, you know, the police put people in jail, and the oversight committees to make sure that there was no abuse or whatever. We're there to make sure that the people that are there have some protection. You know, I guess a lot of people probably say, well, oh, they're all criminals. I don't believe they're all criminals. You know, I believe that even if they are, that we need to, as a board and as a public safety committee, we need to make sure that there's protection in there. That, you know, somehow not only just the workers, but this is just as much for the people in there. We went in there, and the reason that I asked Mr. Pruitt and Reverend Gray to come to this is, and even Alderman Boyd was in there with us. The reason I asked them to come along is we went in there. If you get a chance, you should go over there. There's these holding cells that have people crammed in there, okay? There is one toilet. It's open to the world because it's got a big window there. There are no beds. There is just a large, hard plastic bench. And these people are in there for days on end. No showers, no nothing. I'm telling you, if I went through there in that whole scared straight thing, that would do it to anybody. It's wellness care. They're going to keep calling every 20 minutes, and I keep telling them I don't need Social Security. All they do, they call, and then 5 minutes from now, I will get a call saying, "Oh, we're calling from Medicare, and we got this great plan." I keep telling them, and I've tried everything to quit them. Even they call the office. But anyway, I've been over there, and there is the land of lost people. Alderman Page has been over there. Alderman Boyd's been over there. I don't know if Alderman Davis, have you been over there? I can't remember. But that place, there's we need someone to go in there that's going to basically, do they have rights to do anything? No. But they do have the power of the pen. They do have the right to come back to the public safety, commissioner to say, hey, and this isn't just about one mayor. This is about the future. And yes, discipline would have to come from this oversight thing over all of them. And that's fine. Do it as a separate board bill. But we just can't go on ignoring everything that's going on. And every time somebody comes in and speaks to us, which they've been told not to, but yet when they do, just like Dale Glass did, then Mr. Carson, guess what? Now, since he came and talked to us, he's retiring. He's gone. And I can go through other people that have been threatened and told that if they come in front of us, in fact, they've been brought in front of them for, saying, for disciplinary actions, saying that they're, this is why we've had to go through subpoena power. This is why I had to do a sunshine request, which did absolutely no good. And now we're going to try and word it really very specifically, very tight. It's goofy, but you can't tell me that there's been no reports. And if all this stuff's going on and they're not making reports, there's a bigger problem going across the street than what we even imagine, because people are getting beat up or whatever, and I guess they're choosing not to write reports. They're either ignoring all the stuff, and gee, if we don't write reports, I'm sorry if I, but, and I know this is not answering your question, but we did the best job we could on a fiscal note, and I appreciate our attorney helping me through it. And again, this is more of a reason why we need, someone that works for the Board of Aldermen. When I have to go outside the Board of Aldermen to the city councilor or to Paul Payne's office, who are basically under control by the mayor's office, I'm not going to get the help, and Lou, do you feel like we get the help that we needed to put this together? Just yes, no, whatever.
Alderman, all I'm going to say is that I use the resources that were available to me, the information and the resources that were available to me. So, we did get some advice. We consulted with the budget division. They were helpful. We were hoping that they could verify the numbers, but honestly, these numbers are a best estimate based on the numbers for salary for the COB. It doesn't include many things like materials and supplies, because we couldn't provide numbers for that we believed were significant, accurate enough that it would give the board a good idea of what that would cost. So we provided the information that we had.
Great. No, and I appreciate that. I'm just trying to make sure that we're not allocating, multiple dollars to do the same thing. But it sounds like they're. Oh, go ahead.
Well, one of the things, as the Alderman said, is that this is based on the budget for the COB for FY22. They have budgeted for correctional investigators for the COB, for the Civilian Oversight Board, to conduct these. Well, not the Civilian Oversight Board. I would assume it would be the director the employed by the board to conduct corrections investigations. So that's what, the salary amounts for those positions here are directly based on that. So we do know that, at least. And I think the administrative costs will be substantially similar as well.
That makes sense to me. Well, thank you so much for that. And I have nothing further.
Next up is, I believe Clark Hubbard's not going to be here, Alderman Page.
I believe all the questions I would have asked have been asked. So to avoid duplication, I'm going to yield back. I have no further questions or comments at this time. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go back to Alderwoman Howard. Okay, so going through the committee now, we're going to go into public comment. Let me get my cheat sheet here. And first up is Mr. Darrell Gray, Reverend Darrell Gray. I saw him earlier. Are you here, Reverend Gray?
Was here a minute ago.
I did see him a minute ago. Okay, we'll come back to him. How about Mr. Adolphus Pruitt? I see Mr. Adolphus Pruitt. Oh, there his face goes. Mr. Pruitt, good afternoon.
Long morning.
Okay. I understand. So I have to swear you in. Mr. Pruitt, do you affirm or swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth, sir?
Absolutely.
You may proceed.
I got on the tail end of most of this. Unfortunately, I'm doing double duty. So, Mr. Chair and Vice Chair, I'm sorry if I don't get things quite accurate, but I think some of the issues that I've heard are critical that some sort of action takes place relatively soon. I don't know what that all needs to look like, but I do know that for a fact we still do get calls and complaints from the jail and from relatives of people in the jail, and some of them are serious. I will say when we do get them, in most cases, we reach out to the Director of Public Safety, and they have been responsive as relates to returning our calls and trying to address the issues as they come forward. But some of them been very serious in nature. I don't think that it is efficient, and it's been effective, but I don't think it's efficient for us to reach out to the Director of Public Safety when it comes to these issues. I wish there was another entity that was in place that is geared up and focused on dealing with these issues in a more direct manner, that we can refer to families and stuff to, because we won't refer them to the Director of Public Safety when it comes to the issues. I also believe that the issue as relates to right now, the Civilian Oversight Board, it's been directed at any complaints be directed to them, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I think the issue is more of a conflict that we see, is that you may have somebody being harassed by correction officers within the facility who also have a complaint out against a police officer at the same time that something happened during the arrest. So I just think that it's a significant conflict for people who may have a complaint into the Civilian Oversight Board against a police officer to have to ask that same board to investigate correctional officers while they're being incarcerated. I think I think there has to be some degree of separation, which we don't have at this point in time with the way things are being handled. I also believe that, and Marlene, Alderman Davis, I agree with you 100%. I also believe that there has to be a broader office of accountability, and I also believe that all of these things should funnel through there at some point in time. I just don't know if I believe that folk incarcerated who may be having issues that may need the benefit of a corrections oversight board should wait until the city figures out how to create a office of accountability and sort of tie these things in together. So for some reason there can be multiple steps to get there, a crescendo of some sort that moves in that direction. I think that would be helpful. But under no circumstances am I saying that we don't need correction oversight. It just has to happen. And there has to be somebody else that we can funnel these people. We had a good example. We've had a couple of them come through, and I said, well, listen, the Civilian Oversight Board has been directed to handle these complaints, and the director over there has asked that I send these folks to you, and they say, I'm not talking to them. That's the response we get. And so even they have some concerns. And for some reason, they have some concerns that the Civilian Oversight Board is actually there to protect the police and discredit those complaints. So so it has been, so we don't recommend that anymore. We don't ask them to do that anymore because of the responses that we've been getting. And I'll close by saying this, just to give you some idea. A couple of weeks ago, and the public safety director and the new commissioner for the jail were very responsive and handled it. But it was a member of the LGBTQ community who was incarcerated in the city jail, who was allegedly attacked by sexually assaulted by another male prisoner. He reported it to the mental health people in the jail and didn't get the response he wanted. Eventually, he reported it to the captain. It got to the unit commander, then the captain, and it went all the way up the line before they would at least allow him the ability to file a complaint with the police department. So this happened on like October, I forgot the date, but it was at least 2 weeks later before he was actually able to, as a civilian, even though he's incarcerated, file a complaint with the police department. And then it's questionable whether once the police department got the complaint, whether they ever did anything with it. And I did talk to the director of public safety, and he put me in touch, and we had a three-way with the commissioner, and they were very responsive, and they got down to the facts and are addressing it, and in response to that are putting certain things in place to make sure that doesn't happen again. But the point being is everybody doesn't have access to the director of public safety and the commissioner. And two is, and they shouldn't have to be the ones to have to deal with these matters and track this stuff down. There has to be a third body, a third party that does this to give the comfort level to both those in corrections and at the same time protect the city from any liability. Because based on what happened to this young man, and they said, well, one, he wasn't supposed to be in a cell with other males because he identifies himself as a female, but he was placed in a cell with another male. And so, and there's some federal regulations as relates to how you have to handle people based on their gender identification. Well, a number of those things were not handled that way. And so it's an issue. But again, somebody within government has to be responsible for receiving these sort of complaints and dealing with them. And I just don't think it's the job of the chairman the director of public safety to have to deal with it directly, nor the commissioner at that level. I think there should be some outside third party that looks at it and then shares that information with them.
Mr. Pruitt, I know we're waiting for the vice chairman to come back, but I wanted to ask you a question, if it's okay. Is it okay if I ask a question, Mr. Vice Chair?
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
So, Mr. Pruitt, I'd say over the during this year, how many complaints have you received? Just a
That's
guess.
interesting. On average, from somebody in corrections, on average 3 or 4 a month, easy, and it just all depends on what's going on during the riots and other stuff. It was larger than that. In most cases, it's from some loved one who's saying their loved one inside the facility is not getting the treatment they wanted or being mistreated one way or the other.
Can you believe that I sent a sunshine request asking for any reports of incidents from the first of the year till present? And you'll be happy to know that there has been no reports of any incidents. So I guess everything's just all good. I have the answer to the sunshine request and the timeline. And, you know, I just wanted you to know that under a sunshine request, according to them, there are no reports of anything. All's good. It's just everything's wonderful.
Yeah. They can sunshine us.
No, I don't believe the request. I don't believe
we have a few.
I don't believe the answer myself. I just wanted to share that. That was all. I just wanted to put that out there.
Next up is Reverend Gray. I see you, Reverend Gray. Good to see you. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth, sir?
I affirm that the testimony will be the truth and nothing but the truth.
Please proceed, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Chair, and to all of your committee people. We've been here before. I'm glad that we're here now. Most of you might recall that I served as the chair for the Corrections Task Force under the previous administration as a result of numerous riots in the Criminal Justice Center. And at that time, we felt that it was important for the task force to go in with a very limited mandate, but to go in and do as thorough a job as we could to respond to the issues that have been presented by the detainees. When we were there, not only did we hear from the detainees, but unofficially, we heard from correctional officers and others who expressed some very grave concerns about the management and or mismanagement and concerns as related to the health and the safety of not only detainees, but correctional officers, administrative and support staff as well. As a result of our review, we can't call it investigation because I think that all of the members of the task force to the person would say that we weren't able to have as much time as we felt we needed, nor did we have as much accessibility to all of the principals in the facility, to include correctional officers. We still try to do as able a job as we could. As a result of that, we came out with 80 plus recommendations. And 10 of those recommendations we considered urgent and presented those recommendations to the mayor, presented those recommendations to the commissioner of corrections at that time, that I understand was handed off to the interim commissioner, Mr. Carson. One of those recommendations dealt with the creation of a civilian oversight board for corrections. It was one of the priority items that came out of that inquiry that came from the task force. Throughout the community, people felt that that particular recommendation was a valid recommendation, a necessary recommendation to speak to the issue of accountability and transparency. members of the activist community and the progressive community, the moderate community, saw it as a move towards actual effective criminal justice reform. And so everybody thought it was a great idea at the time. And I'm hoping that people still feel that an oversight, an independent civilian oversight board for corrections is still equally urgent and critical and necessary and would provide some reform. As a former correctional officer, let me say that no riots and no reports doesn't necessarily equal no problems. No riot, no report doesn't necessarily equal no problems. And I'm saying that as a former correctional officer. I understand that at the last meeting, there were questions that were raised. And my understanding is that Mr. Galley was supposed to meet with older people, members of the administration, and representatives from the city attorney to respond to those questions and concerns. My understanding is that happened. And my hope is that those meetings helped older people on this committee get clarity and understanding. We just saw what happened in the county with the correctional officer that was beaten. Correctional officers in the city have grave concerns about their safety. The oversight committee, Mr. Chair, that we recommended and that we worked so hard to create in consultation and collaboration with representatives from the mayor's office, we felt would serve the purpose of being proactive and preventative, so that this board could help to mitigate, review, research, investigate with subpoena power any and all concerns that came out of that building. And finally, that it would also allow there to be some accountability from this jurisdiction if detainees were sent elsewhere, outside of the center, if they were sent elsewhere because of overcrowdedness or other issues, that there would still be some accountability on behalf of this jurisdiction. Today, Mr. Chair, the same urgency that we faced when we had riots still exists. Just because we don't have riots does not mean there's no urgency. I support an Office of Public Accountability. I support that. I believe that the independent oversight committee for police needs to be there. But as Dr. Pruitt said, I also believe that a separate oversight committee needs to be there as well. I'm glad that there's a dollar figure attached to it. The mayor made sure that there was the dollar figure attached to her budget. She put that in. So I'm hoping that because she indicated that money would be in her budget, I believe that it shows that she believes that there needs to be some type of attention, urgent attention, placed to the issues and the problems that exist in our Justice Center right now. And so I agree with Mr. Pruitt. Even though I support the creation of an Office of Public Accountability, I don't think detainees, correctional officers, administration, and support staff should have to wait until that happens, or wait until somebody is hurt or, God forbid, killed in that Justice Center. And so I thank the committee for bringing this back up. Mr. Chair, I thank you and Alderman Vaccaro for the work that you have put into this, because you've put in a lot of hours into this discussion as well. And I really want to be clear to all those who are listening. This committee substitute was created based upon consultation, collaboration, discussion, input from the administration. Great input. They were outstanding in the input that they gave, along with the city attorney's office. And so I don't see any reason, Mr. Chair, that something that all of us have said is so urgent to mitigate injury and possibly death should be stalled and buried in a committee. And I'll leave it at that, because I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, for Mr. Chair, for allowing me the latitude and the time that you've given me.
Thank you, Reverend Gray. And I certainly want to thank you and Mr. Pruitt for all the passion and due diligence and all the hard work that you guys have put into this. You know, you hear about task force all the time, and oftentimes they're tasked with, you know, doing certain tasks, right? And then that's it. There's a report, and then that's it. Like a lot of planning documents, and it sits on the shelf. But there was a lot of good recommendations that came out of the task force. And I think we all went in it with open minds to believe that something substantial will happen at the end. And so much where the previous mayor actually put money where her mouth was to fund a consultant to come in and help provide some guidance to that process and provide even more transparency, as well as a wealth of knowledge about how the system actually works. So again, thank you. I want to go ahead and open it up to other members of the Board of Aldermen who are not on the committee. I may call in random order just because I'm looking for names. It's easy to spot faces. I'm going to ask if Alderwoman Ingracia would like to provide any comment, or if she had any questions of the sponsor.
No, thank you for the opportunity to ask them, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I think I see Alderman Gunther. I'd like to recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions.
Okay.
Sure.
I think I saw, go to a second page. I'm on my iPad, so I got to scroll through pages. I thought I saw Alderwoman Rice. How I do? Alderwoman Rice?
No questions, just listening today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Alderman Todd.
No question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I think it's critical when we have these committee hearings that if people have trepidation about a bill or they want to understand the bill a lot better, this is really prime time to really get into the weeds, especially if we have presenters, because, you know, we don't have presenters at the full board meeting. So I certainly want to always encourage my colleagues to participate when the opportunity exists, so that we can flush out any issues before we actually get to the full body for discussion. Is Alderwoman Howard back with us? I want to go back to Alderwoman Howard before I close with the, allow the chairman to close on this bill. Okay, Alderwoman Howard still hasn't said anything. Did I miss anybody? Alderman Bosley?
I'm here. I'm sorry. I've been having very, very bad service this morning. Phone
Okay.
is sucks. Can you hear me very well?
Yeah. Did you have any questions or comments?
I just popped back in. Which board bill are we on? My apologies. Can I be heard?
You barely. It's in and out.
Yeah, it's been doing that the whole meeting for me. Unfortunately.
Man, it's bad. Now your video is gone.
Jackson, what board bill are we on?
We're on 19.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Okay, but my audio is still there.
My
audio, my camera's on. I guess I'm gonna try to log out and pop back in.
Okay.
Again. Okay.
I just wanted to, I guess, give a little bit of commentary. Certainly, there's been a lot going on at the Justice Center and some things at MSI. There's been a lot of talk about inhumane treatment. I remember having conversations with someone who testified. I can't remember if it was Mr. Carson. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking it was Mr. Carson that said that there's a process to report incidents so that inmates, if they had a problem, if there was a fight, if there was some mistreatment, that was recorded. I guess I want to ask you, Mr. Chairman, is that not your understanding, that if people have issues that they just tell somebody and there's no real documentation of it? I want to be clear.
No, in fact, of course, you were there, I was there, Reverend Gray, Mr. Pruitt was there. We were all told that reports are generated for every incident. That's why I keep bringing back the fact that they said there are none. I don't believe there are none, but but no, there were supposed to be reports generated for every incident that goes on there, yet they don't seem to have any, which tells me one of two things. Either that place is turned into Shangri-La and there's just nothing bad going on, or if they don't generate a report, it didn't happen. And I just, that tells me why it got to be extremely important that I brought this back and we get this done. But yes, reports are supposed to be generated.
So just to correct me, so that was the conversation we were given when we toured the Justice Center.
Yes.
Okay. So out of fairness, he did not testify before the committee and say that. We were told that in a separate meeting at the Justice Center.
We were told that, and I don't know if we had ever asked that in committee. Okay. I do know that was part of what came out of when we went over with the previous mayor's committee.
So and I haven't had any conversations with the mayor's office as far as if they're for this or against it. I haven't been privy to those particular meetings. I think it's a great idea, personally. I do think there needs to be a separate entity to deal with police versus an entity that deals just with corrections. I think there's a lot of validity to that. I know there was talk about kind of a one-stop shop organization where there's a director and people in each board would report to that person. So that's probably still out there. In the meantime, I pretty much agree with Reverend Gray that, there's a sense of urgency. And I think time is of the essence with doing this work and getting the bill passed. Now, that does not mean that down the road, we still cannot create an entity in which the Civilian Oversight Board and the Detention Facility Board is under one umbrella. But I believe that there's a lot of work that needs to be done as it relates to tracking what's going on with detainees. When you hear for 2 and 3 years about why we should close the workhouse or close whatever facility, it's perplexing to me that we wouldn't have documentation on incidents. I mean, that to me, that's not making any sense whatsoever. That would mean that 0 incidents happens at the facilities. And we all know that is pretty much impossible because of the riots that happen. So there should be at least documentation, since the riots that everybody on TV and the national or around the country saw, there should be an incident report on that at a minimum. I would be curious to get a copy of an incident report form. I'm sure they exist. And to hear more about the process of what happens when an inmate files a complaint, whether it's against another detainee or a correctional officer. What happens? How is that information tracked? That data has to be there. I refuse to believe that data does not exist. I'm curious as to why we don't have more conversation in this committee about this board bill. Certainly is not a perfect bill. Again, I think it's something that's necessary, but I also want to make sure it passes out of committee. I want to be helpful in helping it pass out of committee, whereby, you know, there's consensus with the full board that this is the right thing to do. And with that, Mr. Chairman,
Alderwoman Boyd has her hand up.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Boyd, nice to see your face. How you doing? You're on mute.
I apologize for being late. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm listening and to the bill, and the concern that I have, one, is the Public Safety Commission, or Dan Isom and Heather Taylor. I think they're on overload because of so many departments they have to cover. And I suggest asking, has anybody considered that we need to look from that part on how we need to break it down to be more effective? And then two, oversight board for the Justice Center and the workhouse itself is, to me, is justified. We do need that. But I'm looking at, I've heard Alderman Boyd, and I really can relate, is when somebody says it's no incidents that have been filed. So that's sending a red flag to me in the environment that these people are in, and it's no red flag. And so I've spoken to a lot of people that's been incarcerated from the workhouse to the Justice Center, where they have been told that, you know, the guards wouldn't give them whatever they needed to document the issues. And so I think it's the culture of the jail system itself. And so it's a whole culture. When Mr. Pruitt has spoke about the person that tried to file a complaint and what was going on, and that's a reality. And people need to wake up and look at what's really going on. And so I don't condone anybody being treated inhumane under any circumstances. I think Mr. Glass and Mr. Carson did the best they could with what they had to work with, and they were trying to change the culture. But when you have guards that have been entrenched in that for so long, that culture hasn't changed. It's just like the police. When you have policemen that has that mindset, they are superior, you can't change that culture. So I think we need to look at, and that committee would have to look at within to come out to say, this is what needs to be, we need to start working on. And it is an urgency in it, but I don't want us to be hastily pushing stuff and we don't have all our ducks in a row to make sure it's a transition where, one, the prisoners will be heard and the guards will be able to be heard also, but we can start addressing the culture that's in those justice systems that need to be addressed. And so that's where I'm at on this situation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Let me just run down this list one more time before I recognize the chairman to close. Alderwoman Davis, any final thoughts or questions?
Thank you very much. I do believe that there's urgency there. I believe that there are a lot of things that need to be changed in the system. But I still know that as we move forward, we need to put some very strict operational procedures in place. Our citizens will not be served properly, as they are not being served properly now with the current oversight system that's in place. So we just need to do some more work. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Howard, are you with us? Okay, Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Spencer.
Alderwoman Howard's here, but I have no questions or comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Bazing, I saw you tuned back in.
I'm here. I don't know if you all can hear me very well, though.
We can.
You know. Okay. Well, all right. In there. Maybe the sun moved. So I do remember talking to the mayor's office about this some time ago. I appreciate the initiative and trying to better have that bridge between community policing and public safety in general. So I do think it's very important for us right now, especially in times where we have so many different things going on as far as crime is concerned and different things that need to change. We have a lot of prehistoric things going on within the city. So it definitely will be within our best interest to start focusing a little bit more on individuals who can specialize in paying attention to one part of one of the issues that are plaguing the city. If it's corrections, once again, I don't want to beat the drum on it or just continue to say the same thing. But if we're speaking about corrections, then people should just solely focus on the corrections piece and try to figure out exactly what they can do to make specific changes in the jails and working with those individuals who work in corrections to help change some of those issues and problems that corrections are having, that we're seeing. Same thing when it comes down to police oversight. I think it's, a little bit difficult to focus on, the police and then try to focus on corrections at the same time. I think those are two different, totally different departments, which is why they hold different job titles. So we most certainly should have, different boards looking at the differences in situations that occur that even both the two could be entangled in. But, at bare minimum, really giving the time to each one of those departments to ensure that the public has enough insight and representation, when it comes down to, once again, trying to bridge that gap. So I'm not against creating this committee. I don't think that it's something that will be harmful to the Civilian Oversight Board. I know many of these members, board, even before I was here, worked hard for a very long time to get a Civilian Oversight Board and to have parameters set up and to really, really get things pushed through to where everybody could work on, creating some type of bill that folks could be proud of. So I do appreciate all the work that was put in previous, on the Civilian Oversight Board. I do have one question. I just want to make sure this doesn't take any power away or eliminate the powers that the Civilian Oversight Board has currently, correct?
No, this is a total separate group altogether. And then another board bill, whenever somebody wants to put it together, could do a umbrella committee that brings everybody under one roof. But they still have to have separate, they have to be able to operate separately. But, to say, gee, we're just going to put this under a group that is appointed by the mayor that are paid, then that is no longer a Civilian Oversight Committee. That's just another pay, this
Paid
is
department.
Yeah, and this is important. I've been working on this since long before our current mayor, we started on this on the previous mayor. The importance of getting this out of committee, it's been bannered around long enough, and I'd like to just get it out and going is what I'd like to do. If we're going to wait to create a perfect bill, we'll all be long dead, and it still won't have a perfect bill. Because you put the best bill you can forward, and other smarter people will come along, or as this gets going, they'll find glitches or trips in the road, and then you amend the bill. But you have to start somewhere. And again, right now, there's problems going on over there. People are reporting stuff to the NAACP about the stuff going on. Yet there's been no reports generated. I don't know if you were at that part. I sent it. We asked for a sunshine request of all the reports of incidents for the last year, all the way from the first year up. you'll be happy to know everything's perfect over there. Been no reports of any incidents. Except I did see a story that Lauren Traeger had on the news. Apparently she was able to get information easier than me. You know, and we did a sunshine, we did a sunshine request. Now we're going to try and expand the sunshine request and even be more specific, you know, in what we're wanting to do. But at this point, I really, unless there's just some strong objection and we will just keep going this on for the next, you know, couple of years or so, I think we've done everything. I know that Mr. Pruitt and Mr. Gray, I know that the vice chairman has met with these. We've put a lot of time in putting together what is it's a good bill. It's a good start. And it's something that I would believe we should just get out of committee and move forward with. And unless the vice chairman feels otherwise, I would, you know, and I'll wait, but my thoughts are I'm just going to ask for favorable consideration and let's start moving this out.
Okay. All right. Alderman Brandy Bowser, any more questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Narayan.
Just a quick comment. I'm going to support this today with the idea that if we do come back with that umbrella organization, that the alderman from the 23rd will be supportive, and that sounds like he is. And I share his concerns about the idea. You know, I worked in the criminal defense field for quite some time, and I have a hard time understanding how there wouldn't be a single complaint coming out of any correctional facility over that period of time. That's no slight on any of the corrections officers. I just know that from what I've seen and heard, complaints are a fairly regular part of any correctional facility. And so I think that really shows a need to step in and act with some urgency here and make sure that anyone who is in the custody of the city of St. Louis, if anything untoward is happening to them, that those complaints are rising up to people who can get something done about it. So I will be supporting this today, and thank you for your work, Alderman from the 23rd.
Well, it was a lot to do with the vice chairman but I committed.
Mr. Chairman, can I get to the last one, then we'll recognize you close? Okay, Alderman Page.
I don't have any additional questions or comments. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Okay, Mr. Chairman, you recognize the close on Board Bill 19, Committee Substitute.
So just to answer, yes, I am committed to the umbrella. I believe there should be an umbrella because you have to have, in order for them to exercise subpoena power, they have to have, it has to come through what would be an umbrella, which would be paid employees, which is not, it's certainly not a civilian group. We can't even like give our subpoena power away. We can't say, well, we're going to let this. So no, I am committed to the, you know, but I believe that the authority, you know, if this group has nothing else, it has the power of the pen. It can come out, it can write reports. Can it exercise any disciplinary action? No, it can't. Can the police commission, you know, oversight do? No, they can't. It's getting access to the information. My understanding from the police oversight committee, they have trouble getting access. That's why we did this is the way we did it. We're hoping to get good access to information on something that's critically important to the people that are housed with us. Not everyone in there is guilty, you know, and although I'm sure there are, you know, but, you know, anyway, I would close and I'll tell you, I would ask for unless there's a strong objection, I would ask for favorable consideration that we just pass this out. And we
You
start.
want to make a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I would. I'll make a motion that we pass this out with a due pass recommendation.
Okay, it's been
Second.
moved. Been moved in second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard,
Pass.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Bosley,
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Narayan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderman Page,
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Should be out shortly.
8 aye votes.
By your vote, you have passed Board Bill 19, committee substitute out of committee with a due pass recommendation. I want to go back, Madam Clerk, for the record, on that motion to approve the minutes. I think I said November the 13th and not October the 13th. And I'm not sure if I need to redo that or if we can just.
Make note.
Is Luke Alley still our legal counsel? I want to make sure we do things decent and in order.
You mean to go back and, I'm sorry, hold on, let me bring my.
Yeah, I think my motion was to approve November the 13th, but I meant October the 13th minutes. It's on the agenda. It clearly says October 13th.
I don't see any problem if you'd like to go and approve the minutes for October 13th right now.
Okay.
Is that your question?
I would, or if I need to do it at all, or do it like Scrivener errors. Sometimes we make mistakes on board bills. I didn't know if I needed to.
If the committee understands that that you had meant October rather than, yeah, that would be a Scrivener's error. So if everybody understands what you meant, then yes.
Well, no, I'm doing this for all the technical people out there in the public. So what I like to do right now is I like to make a motion to approve the minutes for October 13th, 2021.
Second. Previous.
It's been moved in second. Hearing no objection, previous roll. The minutes for October 13th, 2021 has been approved. Thank you. Now, Mr. Chairman, it's back. I'm sorry.
Can I ask you, because during this, I just got a text and I need to run out front for a minute because Kevin Colleen's out there he's been listening to the meeting.
Well,
can I have you start?
We need to adjourn.
Well, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I think Mr. Colleen, Kevin Colleen can wait because I have a meeting to chair in about 4 minutes. So I'm not going to be able to chair. Okay. But
then I'll chair. That's fine.
Or you can.
No, I want to hear
the next 6. No, it's up to you. I can't do it. You can ask the next.
Okay. I can do this. I will tell them I can't be out there. So because I promised that we were going to hear Alderman Todd's 2 bills, and I want to stay true to what I said. So I don't want. He's been patiently waiting.
And I'll try to do double duty, but I want to make sure we can start HUDs on time.
No, I understand that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to go over to make a quorum for HUD, and I'll come back.
Okay, but I do want to make sure, because we want to. I want to hear this, so I can text Kevin. I don't think I'd be out there for like 5 minutes or around 5 minutes, but let me anyway. So anyway. Alderman Todd, I want to recognize you on board bill number 119.
19 is it my lawyering or my panhandling? Is it the panhandling bill? Yes, sir.
This loitering.
Loitering.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Public Safety Committee. This loitering bill is a straightforward bill. It deals with the United States. First of all, they found it unconstitutional, but it deals with the United States Constitution, which I Googled, and I also have a book on it, but I Googled it today, and it's the First Amendment. And it reads, the U.S. Constitution, the rights of the people to peacefully assemble is protected as follows. Congress shall make no law abridging the rights of the people to peacefully assemble. When I talk, I will be talking about peacefully assembling of loitering, as well as my next bill, which loitering doesn't mean, it doesn't, you still can't trespass. And it doesn't, and you also cannot, you can restraining orders, disturbing the peace. Those laws are on the books already. So we do have consequences if someone's peace is disturbed. So, so basically what I'm asking is that this no loitering bill be repealed because it has been found unconstitutional anyway. So basically, that's the gist of the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Public Safety Committee members.
Are you asking to pass this out today?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'm asking to have it passed out for your favorable consideration today.
Okay, let me go down the list then. So let me start. Vice Chairman Boyd had to step over to another committee, so they'll be listening back and forth. Alderwoman Davis, are you? I know you're going back and forth. Are you with us? Did you have questions for Alderman Todd? And again, everybody's doing double duty. Alderwoman Howard, any questions for Alderman Todd?
I guess the only question I had is what inspired this?
What inspired me to do this? As you know, I previously worked on many years in war and poverty, and the other thing that inspired me is that when we take people into they get a police record. The other thing is that they're exposed to some violence, as well as some bad ideas that some people may try to influence them with. The other thing that inspired me, it takes up a lot. It takes up police time to when they could be doing other things with their time, and so I was inspired because I'm trying to do everything I can to make sure that citizens don't get unnecessary police records, that and that citizens' constitutional rights are respected, as well as the police's time is used as a resource, but only when necessary, so that we don't end up overburdening our police officers as well. So it inspired me to get it off, to just have specific laws. If you violate them, there are consequences, but when there are no laws being violated, then you're not arrested.
That's fair. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, actually. Alderwoman Spencer. And again, people are going back and forth. Alderwoman Pam Boyd. Alderman Brandon Bosley.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderman Todd, just so I can be clear, this is a bill removing the loitering laws that we have on ordinance.
Yes, it is, because it has been found unconstitutional, and since it has been found unconstitutional, it would remove the law itself.
Got you. Do our loitering laws have any other, I would say, other than loitering, the actual ordinance? You know, sometimes we can have two or three things kind of mixed into that loitering piece. Is it only about just standing around, being in vacant properties, or being in, I guess, in a group loitering? I've actually never read the loitering law or ordinance in the city, so
It's about it's about, just, let's say if you're just standing talking on the street, that would be considered peacefully assembling. If you were trespassing, that's against the law.
okay.
Or if you were making noise, or if you were harassing anyone in any way, you're not. Then there's a law against those type things. But if you're just standing talking, if you're not in violation of the law. So there are laws, yes, that protect the citizens, but this law, according to the ruling, was that it doesn't protect anybody. It violates the rights of the citizens.
Gotcha. And you're just saying, since it has been ruled out in the Supreme Court, we might as well get in line. Mm-hmm.
We'll get in line with the ruling of the Supreme Court, or with the Constitution, which is a couple hundred years, almost 200 years old or more. So.
Understood. Okay. Well, thank you. I don't have any further questions. Thank you for bringing it forward. I have no further questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Oldenburg. I know Alderman Clark Hubbard's not here. Alderman Brett Narayan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderman Todd and I had addressed this issue in a conversation sometime back, and I just wanted to make sure that that the alderman from the 18th was still open to making some changes as we move forward over the next few weeks before perfection with this, because I think that there may be a good opportunity here to direct resources towards the people who need them the most. I think that's where your heart kind of is with this particular piece of legislation. I think from what I understand, you're telling me that this is about decriminalizing poverty, ensuring that people don't have criminal records, and that there may be a better way to move forward than to simply kind of shoo people along. Assuming that you're still open to making some changes to this legislation in order to attempt to direct some resources towards those people, I would be supportive of this. I just want to make sure that that's still the case on this one as well as the panhandling one.
On the loitering, since it's not against the law, resources would still, I'm certainly open to what you just said. The resources are available, and then I'm open to using the Urban League and the United Way to direct them to the resources rather than them standing around not doing anything. Whereas I can use the Urban League, for example. They not only get people's jobs, they provide the clothing they need, the counseling they need, the transportation. So I'm open to, yes, I'm open to intervention, and then the United Way already has the funds available, whereas they can, whereas they will go out, talk with the people, see if there are any kind of unhoused issues, see if there are drug addiction, whether it's legal or illegal drugs, and food, shelter, or whether there are mental health issues. So the answer is yes, I'm open to us using an alternative so that we don't have the same people standing there year after year without any help. And also, I think after a period of time, getting into bad habits, getting around bad influences. And so yes, absolutely, I'm open to it.
Great. Well, then I look forward to discussing that over the next couple of weeks to come with you as we try and get a good piece of legislation moving here. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Ryan.
Alderman Page.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Alderman from the 18th. You and I have discussed Board Bills 119 and 125 in great detail over the past week or two. I don't remember the exact date, but we had in-depth discussion. Coming out of our discussion into this public forum, a couple of things come to mind that give me a little bit of heartburn, and I thought I would just lay them out there, if you don't mind. First and foremost, as to the constitutionality of the current ordinances, I believe they are 61-415 and 67-918. Has anyone from the city councilor's office, such as Attorney Golly, weighed in on the constitutionality of the existing ordinances?
I have not talked with him in detail. I did send this bill to him, but I didn't talk with him in detail. The answer is I have not gone into detail about it, but I did send it to him, and and it was understood. My understanding, my interpretation was that it was unconstitutional, that it is unconstitutional. That's why it was able to go past him to the committee.
Right. I would highly recommend getting a legal opinion on that constitutionality. I believe you, but I think we need to document that if at all possible. The second thing that gives me quite a bit of heartburn is that the issues and their broad issues of loitering and panhandling, those are kind of broad issues that affect some parts of the city dramatically more than others. And I can tell you that those issues, and I can document cases, tend to drive businesses out of some parts of the city. They also tend to drive visitors away from the city. So I think we need to be real careful here in making these changes. So I just kind of wanted to lay those things out and get any feedback that you might have to offer.
Certainly, I agree with you, Alderman from the Fifth Ward, Alderman Page. What I think drive people out of the city, let me be crystal clear, is poverty. I think we've ignored poverty, at least when I was a teenager, when I first started the anti-poverty program. We had people running away from, not running away, I want to be very positive. We had the elected officials not acknowledge, withdrawing resources from those who were in poverty. After withdrawing those resources, criminalized the same people. And that's why we had the problem today. So I'm being very careful, but if I can remind anyone about Dr. King, the night he went to Memphis the day before he got assassinated, and I was the young man in the movement. and he was organizing a poor people's campaign. But for those, and the reason he was organizing the poor people's campaign, because he understands the same as I do, is that we're criminalizing poverty when we have to stand up and save our taxpayers' money, make our taxpayers safer by coming up with removing laws that are criminalizing people, which makes it more difficult for them to get back into the system. And also at the same time, we had to make sure that we had the resources, and we have the resources now. And I think we need to get back to the basics that we started on with the Johnson's administration, the war on poverty, which it ended up turning into a war on poor people eventually after the resources were taken away. So the answer here is we want to be careful, but I take the chance of standing up for real solutions because I know they work. So the answer here is be careful, but we want to be careful at the same time when we find things that we know work, and we have mechanisms set up to make sure that we don't have recidivism and exposing people to dangerous situations as well as life-threatening situations. We want to get them back with their family as much as possible. We are not talking about legalizing anything. We're talking about diversion away from a system that has proven that it doesn't work. And so we need to provide the resources, and those who are willing to utilize those resources should be given an opportunity to utilize those resources. And so, yes, I do agree with you. We need to be careful, but it's very clear that we need to make sure we give everyone a second chance and that helps us as taxpayers and stewards of the taxpayers' money too, because it does us no good to continue to endanger our constituents. And this putting some people in jail. Now, some people have to be put in jail. I believe in the least restricted environment. That means if a person is going to harm someone's property or harm, and then that person has to be restrained. But we should not, those who are harmless, that we can secure people's property and safety. I think those people, we should use that method when that's possible.
Thank you, Alderman from the 18th. My third and final comment is that I very firmly believe that we as a Board of Aldermen, we as the citizens of St. Louis have an obligation to maintain a civil and orderly society while we work to reduce unhoused situations, to provide housing, to fight homelessness, to provide jobs. I think while we are on all of these righteous missions, we have an obligation at the same time to maintain a civil and orderly society. And I'm a little concerned that these two ordinances may tip us away from those goals and objectives. But that's just my opinion, and I thought I would share them in this public forum. Thank you, Alderman from the 18th. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Thank you. We're gonna have two speakers, but I did notice Alderwoman Pam Boyd kind of flashed on and off there. Let me go with the speakers then. So, Mr. Simons, you can yourself. Do you swear and affirm that what you're going to tell is the truth?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So kind of keep it to within 3 minutes, please, and go ahead and let us know what you have to say.
Okay.
Okay, I work at St. Patrick's Center at the new Camp Cole, and I also have personal experience with loitering laws that I've been accused of loitering. And in 1972, in the case of Papa Christo versus the city of Jacksonville, the Jacksonville vagrants ordinance under which petitioners were convicted is void for vagueness, and that it fails to give person.
We lost your picture.
Oh, because I went to go read it. Basically, the Supreme Court found that it leads to arbitrary enforcement due to its vagueness. So I read the city of St. Louis's loitering law, and it's not super vague, so it might not be unconstitutional. But anyways, you should consider that in the United States, people should have the right to walk around outside with no purpose, because that is what freedom is. And that it does, as Mr. Todd said, it does affect the unhoused community greatly. That I know that people in my shelter have had issues getting into housing because they had so many loitering tickets and panhandling tickets that they then got a warrant and they now can't get into housing, even though I've been working so hard to get them into housing. That's all.
Thank you. I mean, you bring up a good point, which that was part of what I talked about earlier, is that the warrants keep people from reporting when they're assaulted. Anyway, so I'll move on to the next speaker, which is, I believe, Mr. Hunt.
With you. Yeah. Yes, sir. How you doing today, Mr. Chairman?
Good. I need you to swear or affirm that you're going to tell us the truth.
Does I swear to tell the truth?
Yeah, you swear or affirm to tell the truth. You just have to say yes or no.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So keep it to within about 3 minutes if you would, but go ahead, please.
Yes. My name is Antoine Hunt. I've been currently homeless the last 5 years. I just received some information like last year that they have funds available for housing, but we didn't know where the funds went or who took the funds, or then they said that they had some funds available this year. So a few people that I know are supposed to get housed, but we are currently just dealing with the day-to-day tasks of living. So like I panhandle myself, you know, and I know if I don't panhandle, then I won't get a chance to eat or anything, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause I don't have a job. I have physical disabilities, a mental issue, and I'm in constant communication with my caseworkers and everything. But like for instance, I go on Broadway or either Grand. You know what I'm saying? Because the cheapest room is on Grand. So I would try to make at least like $55 a day just to go there, if, you know what I'm saying, weather permits, if it's bad during the wintertime mainly. But it's just that I have a few warrants myself for panhandling, and I haven't went to court in like 2 years because of COVID. But they said I had like 5 of them then and dropped like 2 of them off. But I'm still currently wanting for panhandling, and that was just trying to survive. You know, I was let me see. I need surgery in my right foot, you know, my hands are messed up. So I'm limited on work, you know. I don't run from work or nothing like that, you know, but yeah, it just was, man, it's been really hard out here. And I don't think if we aren't allowed to panhandle and we can't get jobs or housing, then what are we supposed to do? Because it's like people that choose another lifestyle, like robbing and killing for money, and I don't do none of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not no criminal or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? It's good people's out here. My mother is still alive and everybody, you know what I'm saying? But it is really hard on people. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been outside for 5 years now, so it done, done built my anxiety. You know what I'm saying, man? I be depressed. You know what I'm saying? Being outside done, you know what I'm saying, really leave you traumatized. I had somebody died on me last winter, one of my friends, because they froze to death. So I mean, I don't know what I don't see anything happening too fast, but I hope something happens soon for us.
Well, thank you. And I think we're on two different subjects, but yes, we have to provide help for the homeless. That's a fact. I'm a little leery on these, but let me go back to, does anyone on the committee want to comment or speak on board bill number 119? Anybody on text? Does anybody on the committee, let's see here. The other problem is these might get held up because I don't believe we have a quorum. Let's see, Vice Chairman Boyd.
I'm here if you need me for a quorum.
Okay, let me see who all's here. Let's. Is anyone asking for a quorum call before we do this? Let's see. I'm a little mixed here because I know we had established a quorum, so I believe we could vote unless someone asks for a quorum call. And that is my understanding. Vice Chairman, are you still here? Are you still around? Can I borrow you for about a minute?
I am. There are enough people on here for a quorum, so you still have your quorum.
Okay.
Previous roles should.
Okay, well, I don't know that I don't know the previous role would. I'm a little uncertain how I feel about this myself. I guess I'm a little nervous about telling the police that, let's just say, for instance, in one of our parks, after hours as a group gathered in a park, or, I mean, to tell the police, well, there's not much that we can do about it. And I know we have issues in some of the parks.
Chairman Vaccaro, if I may, this ordinance does not get rid of trespassing. So an individual who is in the park after the park was closed would not be loitering, they would be trespassing. And there is a distinction there. So the police still would have some tools at their disposal for trying to deal with that particular scenario.
Well, what about, let's just say, so there's going to be a hockey game, okay? And I know that a lot of people, like the homeless people in particular, like to sleep on a great one because it's warm. And generally the police come and move them along. If we take away that right, then, I guess I have some concerns. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, certainly everybody should vote how they feel. And Alderman Todd, I mean, if you feel comfortable and you feel that you have the votes on the committee to pass it out of committee, you're certainly welcome to ask to close and ask for favorable consideration. I don't know that I'm leery to support this because I'm afraid of some of the scenarios that go through my head, on loitering. And I realize we have to do something about the homeless. And I also know that in talking to Mr. Pruitt, we also have to do something about if people are charged, you know, or not charged, because, you know, I just have some concerns, and I guess, but certainly I'm going to leave it up to you. You're welcome to either hold the committee, hold it till next week if you want to do it, or see if you have the votes today. I just don't want you to, if you don't have the votes, to end up wrecking your bill. So it's your decision.
I don't know if I had a votes or not, but I would just like to make a closing statement. First of all, as you all probably know, I was homeless myself as a teenager. Homeless people are human beings. Homeless people need us more than anyone else. Homeless people, let me be perfectly frank, when people, it's about time for those of us like myself who have gotten away from homelessness and now have privileges. If I step over somebody, it's about time. If I'm at a hockey, I like baseball. If I'm at a baseball game and see a homeless person, we should learn to be more sensitive. Or else I'm driving down. A lot of times I drive down Kings Highway at 40, and then sometimes even in other streets in the Central West End, basically, and near North Side. But what happens is the homeless people were the same as I was. They were peaceful people. But a human being has to eat. A human being has to have a place to stay. The unhoused die earlier. We're talking about life and death. We're talking about life and death of people, human beings that are enjoying their constitutional rights to peacefully assemble. And I know as leaders, we need to let all citizens pay taxes, or somebody pay taxes for their food, somehow, or some of their ancestors, or whoever. Those who are able to contribute could become contributing citizens again. If they are just peacefully assembling, the kinder we are and the gentler we are with them, we get their kindness and gentleness back. I think we need to take this, our culture in a new direction. That means that we should start being like the Bible said, the least of thee, loving our neighbors as we do ourselves. We need to make sure that we understand in the Bible, even with St. Paul, he was, we see different people in the Bible, whether it be Mary Magdalene, or whether it be the lady who was a commercial, we don't know if she was a commercial sex worker or not, but she has 7 demons. We see all of these people throughout the Bible, and many of us are Christians like myself. This is not, and others are just, others, the reality is that the homeless people, not just homeless, but people who are just sitting, when we have parks, one of the reasons we don't have the people, one reason people sit around and talk is because our parks don't have as many organized activities and centers and schools and many other facilities, public facilities that could be used to really move people away from having to sit around and talk. So I'm saying this bill, this is just a step in the right direction. First of all, to protect the constitutional rights of all citizens. These are American citizens. Every citizen has the same rights. Every citizen is as important as the next citizen. And this is what this bill does. It is no different than if I go on my front talking. If I go down the street walking and stop and talk with 3 or 4 or 5 people, because a person maybe is dressed differently than I am, is having a difficult time like I had when I was a teenager. I may have looked strange, but I was still the same human being that I am now as Alderman. So that's why I'm asking you to please give favorable consideration. And once our citizens realize that we are here to go, we're using data that shows that when we use wraparound services, that we can make them safer. And when we all tell the truth, and when I say tell the truth, is to do studies and find out the best practices, we can make our city safer, because we don't have a choice of building more jails. When I was a teenager, there were two adult prisons. Now we have 17, 18 prisons. If we can build prisons, we can build houses. If we can, so it's not a matter, and we pay $100 a day to keep a person in jail right downtown. We could pay $50 to keep them, to get them, like the young man said, $55. If he could pay $55 for a room, and we're paying $100 to keep him in jail and then we're taking up police time. We're taking up judges' time. We're using all these institutions. So what I'm saying is cheaper for our taxpayers, it's safer.
Yes, so you're calling for?
I'm calling for a vote on the lawyering bill, and then I would like to quickly go through the panhandling bill.
Okay, so let's. So you are recognized to close on this. I'm just letting you know out front that I don't know that I support it in the form it is, but I'm just one person.
Let me
be out front with you.
Let me ask you.
It's your call. I'm recognizing you to close on.
Okay, I will close, and then, so I can take up the next bill. I don't want to keep the committee here all day.
Are you asking to take a vote on this?
I would like the committee ask for the committee's favorable consideration on Board Bill 119.
Okay.
Pass out and give it a due pass recommendation.
Is it going to be Mr. Clerk now, or still?
It will be.
Mr. Clerk, please call the roll on Board Bill. I'm sorry, it'd be on Board Bill number 119.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't hear a second on the motion.
I'll second that.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Please call the roll.
Okay.
It might take a minute because people are going to jump back and forth.
Alderman Boyd. Okay. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Howard.
No question.
No. We're
voting.
He's asking for a vote. Yeah, it's yes or no. If you support the bill or if you're against it. So if you're supporting the bill, it's be an aye. If you're opposed to the bill, and we're on the loitering bill, it would be a no. So you support it, so you're an aye. Okay.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Pam Boyd. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Clark Hubbard.
Population who could directly administer those resources.
Somebody needs to be muted. Alderman Page.
Pass.
Alderman Vaccaro. Chairman Vaccaro.
I'm going to pass for a minute. I see Alderwoman Boyd's back.
We'll go back through.
Yes, please.
Alderman Boyd. Alderwoman Davis. Alderman Spencer. Alderwoman Boyd.
Pass.
So
Alderman Bosley. Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. There are 2 aye votes.
And 3 passes.
And 3 pass.
And a pass isn't a no. It's like you have to vote it. My understanding is the pass is a pass. It's not a present. So,
No, it's not a present or an abstain.
right. So it would come back around the circle to the three, at least the three passes. So, and that would, so I guess we'll go back around the circle to the three passes. Did you want
Alderman Page?
I'm going to pass one last time.
I say you can pass, you can abstain, or you could vote.
You can vote present, abstain.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you pass more than once?
You have to have a pass will not be recorded as a vote.
Okay. So I mean, you understand that pass would not be.
A vote has to be either abstain, present, aye, no.
I'm going to vote present.
Okay. Okay, so present.
Alderman Vaccaro?
I'm so mixed on this thing. I'm going to be a no vote. I'm sorry. I'm just going to be a no vote. It looks like I may have the votes anyway, but I'll be a no vote.
Alderwoman Boyd?
Abstain.
Abstain. So it'll come out of committee because it's going to be 2 yes, 1 no, and 2 abstained.
It does not have the majority.
Oh.
You only have 2, so you have 3 other votes that are not aye. It's not the majority. And you have 1 abstain, 1 present, and 1 no. So there's only 2 aye votes. There are 3 votes differently than that.
I just, and at this point, can he hold this? I mean, it's sort of I wouldn't say an unfair vote, but because people are in other committees, that could make a difference.
You would have to reconsider your vote to give him the opportunity for it to remain alive. Otherwise, this is died in committee.
Alderman Todd, it's up to you. I can vote to reconsider this. And if there's a second to vote to reconsider it, then you could bring this back and give you a meeting next week, because I don't know that this is a fair vote, because I don't know how, like Alderman Boyd and other ones that are in other committees might possibly be a yes vote that would get this out of committee for you. So I am going to, and then I'll help you through the next part. But I would like to make a motion and vote it on the prevailing side to reconsider the vote.
Second.
Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd, Alderwoman Davis, Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Mohammed, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Narayan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderman Page,
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderman Boyd, Alderwoman Davis, Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Mohammed, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. You have 1 present vote and 2 aye votes.
So it's been passed to reconsider because it is the majority of the vote. So Alderman Todd, I think because there's 2 meetings going on, we've lost so many people that probably would support this. And I can ask the clerk right now to give us a meeting next week. Would you like to hold this till next week? And then it would be the better thing to do, in the sense that I think next week you probably do have the votes to get it out. They're just not here. So does that make sense to you that we would? It's up to you, but what might be the better thing for you to do is just hold this bill to next week, and I can ask the clerk right now if we can have a meeting next Tuesday.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
There are 2 full board meetings scheduled for next week. So it would have to be the week after. Because, there's also the week of the holiday.
Can you do this for me? Out of fairness, because I want to be fair in this, can we bring back, can you go to the, can you kind of mention over the HUD's committee if they can bring back the quorum so we can get a good proper vote on this back over here, just long enough to take a vote? I know that some of the folks are over in the HUD's meeting. And if we can get them in here, I'd like to give this a proper vote. Because, just because I'm a little bit shaky on it, I don't want to vote for the whole board. And I want to be fair. Does that make sense to you, Alderman Todd?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. If we can get the people back over here so we get a true good vote. I don't want you to kill your bill. It's something you believe in. And even if it's postponed for another week and a half, 2 weeks, we can't do it next week, but the week after, I think you're on the right track. Plus, it would give you and Alderman Ryan a chance to maybe go over a few things that he had, concerns about. The best place to correct and fix bills are in committee. Otherwise, these end up with multi-hour debates on the floor where all the changes and corrections can be made right here. And this is where, rather than a floor substitute. Mr. Clerk, any?
Mr. Chairman, I did speak with the assistant clerk, and she spoke to the chair. They're going to make an announcement and see if some members can come back.
Okay, we'll do that, and then we'll take a vote again if that's what you'd like to do.
But they did seem to be in quite a bit of discussion in that meeting when I spoke to her. Looks like some are coming back.
Okay, and we just need them for like a minute. And I'll try to give them the very fast version of what they're voting for. I would think that everybody's read the bill.
Well, I thought I saw somebody come in and then they went right back out. So, Mr. Chairman, we can just schedule this for another meeting.
Yeah, I think that's Alderman Todd. I think that's the smarter, better way to go to get your bill through for you.
Right. We could do that later today and give him a date. Give you a date certain.
Okay. So if you get with the clerk, he will give you a date on that. Do you want to do the same for the next one would be, I think what we'll do, if you're fine with that. Oh, wait a minute. Here we got some people came in now. So where we're at to Alderwoman Boyd and Alderman Boyd is it didn't have the votes, but only a handful of people were voting. This is a bill that would make it, the way I understand it, if you read it, it sort of makes it legal to loiter, or doesn't make it illegal to loiter. It didn't have the votes. We did a motion to reconsider. I felt it was a little unfair because only 5 of us were here to vote. The choices are, and I'll leave it up to, again, to Alderman Todd. The choice might be to hold this for to the next possible meeting, which would be in 2 weeks, so that we can get everybody here, which would be more fair, I think, for him for his bill. Otherwise, we have 2 more people here that we did, well, no, because Alderwoman Boyd was here. We have 1 extra person. And Alderman Todd, wait a minute, I'm sorry, yes, Alderman Boyd.
Oh, I didn't know if you knew I was here.
Yeah. So you're the only 1 extra person. We only really have 5 people here.
Okay.
And so the way it didn't pass. So we did a motion to reconsider. That's kind of leaving it up to Alderman Todd. I still don't think, even with Alderman Boyd here, I don't know how he would vote. I don't know that would change things. The other option was we don't vote on this for 2 weeks. Well, now we have Alderman Davis back. So let's see. Well, Alderman Todd, you do have Alderman Davis and Alderman Boyd here. If you want to wait for more people on the committee, then we can do this in 2 weeks. If you want to take a chance, I certainly don't know how they're voted. Hopefully you've talked to them. You got a pretty good indication how the rest of everybody's voting. Do you want to hold off for 2 weeks or try to do it right now? It's up to you.
I would just go ahead. Does anyone on the committee have anything to say before I talk?
Alderman, Vice Chairman Boyd, do you have any questions or comments?
Actually, because I'm doing double duty,
Right.
I probably would just vote present on the vote if there was a vote, because I want to swing back for a quorum. But because I haven't really read and listened to the testimony, I couldn't vote. I wouldn't vote yes or no.
Right. So that's put you back in the same spot. Alderman Todd, it's your call, but I think you're in the same spot. We just would be better to wait. And I promise I would have if the clerk's here right now, I would tell them right now to please set up a meeting at the very next possible date that we could have a meeting. To try so we have a full quorum.
Okay. I will. If anyone else does anyone else have any questions? I want to express your opinion before I express mine.
Yeah, Alderman Davis, you were the only other one.
I wouldn't be able to vote on it because I didn't have a chance to hear everything. Okay. And so I would just vote present. Okay, and I think that's what the problem. So, so if you have to go back to the other meeting, certainly do that. And Alderman Todd, you're certainly free to say whatever you want to say, and then we can look at the other bill, or we can hold them both and do them at the same time. It's again your call.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the Public Safety Committee. Since the other all the peoples on the committee are not present, and then there are some who are absent, I think it would be best to allow everyone to hear the bills and then vote on it so that they will have an opportunity to get all the information and then make a decision, make an informed decision. So I would rather delay it and wait until all the and give the committee plenty of notice so that they can be present. So that's that's what I would like to do.
To be honest with you, I think that's the best move, because I think your bills on the surface are good bills. And now that we have had some opportunity, I know that Alderman Page and Alderman Ryan would like to maybe do a couple changes, or at least talk to you a little bit about it. Let's do that. If you're fine with that, we'll hold Board Bill 119 and Board Bill 125 to the next meeting. Mr. Clerk, what would be the date on that meeting? Can we get one now?
Mr. Chair, I would have to look at the calendar, but there are some open dates that following week. Mm-hmm.
So, Alderman Todd, I would ask the clerk right now that, so next week, because of the holiday, it's not possible, but the week after the first possible date, if you're fine with that, you know, and and we will hear these bills, even if more bills come in, your bills will be the first two on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Public Safety Committee. Yes, Mr. Clerk, will you please schedule a meeting as soon as convenient as possible for you?
Sure.
For the Public Safety Committee meeting.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, then I think that's all the business that we had. I want to thank the speakers for coming. This is not a dead bill. It's actually a very live bill, just so the speakers understand that. Out of fairness to Alderman Todd, because there's a HUD's meeting going on, which has to do with a lot of, you know, HUD's housing tax stuff and all this other stuff. You know, a lot of the aldermen had to switch to another meeting. So, and you're certainly welcome to come back as speakers at the next one. So at this point, then I guess we'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting if we got anybody out there to second it, which will be interesting. Alderman Ryan, are you still out there? Or? So we'll need a second on. Or Alderman Page.
Mr. Chair, if you don't have a motion yet, I will make that motion. If you have a motion, I will second.
I went ahead and made the motion. If you second it,
second.
That's wonderful. All in favor, which aye.
Aye.
Then we're adjourned and we will get together in 2 weeks on this. Thank you all for coming.